5, Chapter 231, notice of this meeting has been posted on the city's website, sent to the official newspapers of the planning board, and posted at a conspicuous location at City Hall as provided by law. Charlie, can we have a roll call?
Charles Romano.
Present.
Randy Bell.
Present.
Marcus Green. Jonathan Connor.
Present.
Jeff Halpern. Joseph Harrison. Kati Dominguez.
Present.
Anthony Santoro.
Present.
Wanda Spaghetti. Patricia D. Muhammad.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. I believe there are no new minutes to approve, is that correct?
I haven't.
Okay, that's fine, yeah. We approved a few last time.
Okay.
George, any resolutions to memorialize?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Michael, any announcements?
Yes, I have a few. So first of all, we had previously told the board that we would be coming back to the board on November the 20th for our climate resilience plan. We are shifting that date to December the 14th for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're having issues making quorum for that meeting. And second of all, we keep on making changes to the climate resilience plan. It is an active document. So we thought delaying it to our first meeting in December would be appropriate. So the first planning meeting in December will be our climate resilience plan. This will be a public presentation. We are looking for members of the public to come and to participate in that meeting and to give us feedback on that plan.
Mr. Cooper, can you just repeat what the name you're coming back to?
This is the Trenton Climate Resilience Plan, our Resilient NJ Climate Resilience Plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Second, I'm going to talk about a couple of things that are a little bit broader in the world. The Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission operates on a Connections 2050 long-term plan. This is a plan that guides transportation investments in our region in the long term through the year 2050. This is all of our transportation investments, so billions and billions of dollars of investments, and they do seek public comment on these items. So the Connections 2050 plan is in public comment right now. They're doing surveys. They want community feedback. So if you go to publicparticipation.dvrpc.org/update2050, all the materials for the long-term plan for DVRPC are on that website. So there's a lot of opportunities on there to provide feedback into our long-term transportation investments.
Michael, can you send me that?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Probably.
Yeah, I can send that out.
Please repeat public participation by the
.org
/.
update 2050. Third is another broad one, which is that there is also currently an update to the New Jersey State Development and Redevelopment Plan happening. This is a plan that is put out by the Office of Planning Advocacy, which is part of the New Jersey Department of State. And this guides all development and redevelopment that happens in the state of New Jersey. This is the first update in well over 20 years to that plan. It's supposed to be updated theoretically every 6. So this is a major update. They're trying to do it in a very tight timeline by the end of next year. They are currently in the process of doing public engagements, lots of community meetings. There are online webinars happening. They are not so well publicized. So community members or members of the public who have a group who might be interested in a presentation can contact the Office of Planning Advocacy, Donna Rendiero, to request a presentation. They are open to doing them. They're especially targeting low-income communities, disadvantaged communities for that public engagement. They want to hear from us. That is an option available if anybody wants to have more involvement in the New Jersey State Development and Redevelopment Plan.
That's a request. They would present to whom?
To whatever, what she said is that she'll do a presentation to anybody who asks. So I'm sharing that information for better or for worse.
She could present to the planning board and any public members who attend?
Theoretically, that would be possible.
Okay. Any other announcements?
That's it for today.
So is the plan to not have a second November meeting?
Our plan, I need to clear that with you first, but
Okay.
with your approval, I think we should be canceling the second meeting in November.
Okay, that works for me.
Yep. I think everybody would like the week off before Thanksgiving. I don't see anybody shaking their head now.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the first item, public hearing. Shirley, would you mind reading that?
Item number 1, public hearing, Donnelly Homes redevelopment area plan. The planning board shall consider whether to recommend the adoption of a new Donnelly Homes redevelopment area plan pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 40A:12A-1. At sequence, the redevelopment area plan seeks to implement strategies identified in the North Trenton/Battle Monument Choice Neighborhood Plan, which has been adopted as an element of the Trenton 250 Master Plan. The City Council has designated this as an area in need of redevelopment with condemnation. Upon completion of the hearing, the Planning Board may adopt a resolution submitting a report to the governing body of the City of Trenton with a recommendation that the Donnelly Homes redevelopment area plan is or is not in conformity with the Trenton 250 Master Plan. Community members will have the opportunity to ask questions and make public comments. The draft Donnelly Homes redevelopment area plan may be viewed at https://www.trentonoj.org/760-north-trenton-battle-monument-choice-MEIG. On this evening of November 6th, Monday, 2023, at 7:20 p.m.
Thank you. We have someone presenting that?
Yep, that's me.
Okay.
So I would like to recognize, before we start, that we do have here Donnelly, Garrett, and Christy Huff of the Trenton Housing Authority. They have been leaders on the Choice Neighborhood Plan from the beginning. This is really, to a large extent, their vision that we're executing as a partnership with the city. So the Choice Neighborhood Planning process, the Planning Board has received numerous presentations on this now from the beginning. So this has gone back since 2019 with an application to HUD for a planning study. So we started with the completion of a North Trenton Battle Monument Choice Neighborhood Plan. This is a plan for the area bounded roughly by the Battle Monument, Pennington Avenue, Calhoun Street, Route 1, and Capitol Health, and Father Rocco Park to the north. Over the course of 2.5 years, we put together a transformation plan for this neighborhood. This transformation plan includes a housing element, a people element, and a neighborhood element for the upgrading of this neighborhood. This has been seen before this board and was adopted as an element of the Trenton 250 Master Plan. So what's important to understand is that was the first step in trying to address the ongoing issues of this neighborhood and seeking the transformation of this neighborhood. So that first plan was a $1.3 million plan, but it included over $1 million for early implementation actions that we are doing right now to implement that plan and upgrade this neighborhood. However, that is only a small part of the vision of this neighborhood. Long term, we are applying for what is now a Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant. So that grant is for $50 million to invest in this neighborhood, backed by an additional $200 to $250 million in investments, in leveraged investments that we as a community will make in this neighborhood to transform this neighborhood. This will include, amongst other things, the demolition of Donnelly Homes public housing and the construction of new housing to replace all of those units one for one. Eventually, this will lead to the development of a minimum of 650 new housing units. One of the key elements of the Choice Neighborhood Plan is that we are trying to no longer isolate poverty by itself. So the new housing that we're developing is all going to be mixed income. Every component of it is required to have full market rate housing, affordable housing, and public housing units all mixed together, so that we're not so segregating poverty in a certain neighborhood. That includes individual buildings have to have all three when we're doing individual buildings. So, as part of our vision for this neighborhood, we are doing this housing plan, which includes one-for-one replacement housing of all public housing, but additionally bringing additional housing units so that we can have a mixed income and a mixed-use neighborhood. On top of that, we have a people plan, where we have a people lead who is actually flying into Trenton tomorrow for interviews around the city. And that people element includes educational investments, healthcare investments, childcare investments, and includes case management for everybody who's involved in this process, and that is a requirement element of this grant. It also includes a neighborhood plan, which has in all the investments that we're making in the broader neighborhood, and that's going to be matched with some city investment, some state investment, and some HUD investment as well. So in the Choice Neighborhood Plan, we're going to have we've identified now 5 critical community investment projects that are going to be the focus of our plan, which include daycare, which include park and open space improvements, which include a home ownership program, a housing mediation program, and a business investment program. So these elements are all going to be worked together to really boost up the whole neighborhood. We want to make sure that this is a process of elevating the people who are in this neighborhood, as opposed to just, bringing new people into the neighborhood and displacing people. This is our goal, is to lift up people who are in this neighborhood. As a part of this process, we have sought to do a redevelopment area plan for a portion of the Choice neighborhood. It's not the whole Choice neighborhood, but a portion of the Choice neighborhood, centered around Donnelly Homes and Junior 1. This redevelopment plan is necessary for the implementation of the housing strategy that we're seeking as part of this application. So, in previous meetings, we have adopted the area in need of redevelopment designation for this neighborhood. So what we have done as a board is found that the area that we have identified qualifies legally as an area in need of redevelopment according to 7 criteria set by the state. And we've also set the boundaries for that area in need of redevelopment. So we've identified all the parcels that are going to be in that area in need of redevelopment. So the boundaries are set, we're not talking about the boundaries anymore. So now what we're talking about is the plan for that neighborhood moving forward, the redevelopment plan. So, the redevelopment plan has been shared publicly, and we have shared it with all of you. So, here are some key elements of the redevelopment plan. Many of our redevelopment plans in the city of Trenton are very focused on land use and zoning, and set land use guidelines for the neighborhood. That is not the case for this plan. Largely, we are deferring to the underlying land development ordinance to set the zoning guidelines for the area. We have previously heard of changes to the land development ordinance that we are making in order to make sure that we're accommodating the proposed development, and that those were approved by this board and are being sent to City Council. So what we're focused now is a lot of implementation measures. We have guidance in here for not just the legal land use, but the actual proposed land use that we seek to see in some of these areas. There are proposed build-outs now in some of these areas, so I'm going to describe some of these since I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. So, the concept is that on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, right on the street, on the area that includes Donnelly Homes on one side, and with the current Junior 1 on the other side, that one strip is targeted for mixed-use multifamily homes. So the idea is that is relatively, 5-story multifamily in that area. That will include multifamily housing, but will also include public services. We are not clear yet what the build-out is going to be yet of those public services, but we're anticipating that there will be community amenities for the housing, but also social services. Library was identified as a need in the Donnelly Homes redevelopment area plan, in the Donnelly Homes in the North Trenton Redevelopment transformation plan. So we're still in the process of identifying what those were going to be. Before Junior 1 burned down, we had a very clear idea of what services we were going to be offering there, because we wanted to take advantage of the community kitchen that was in Donnelly Home in Junior 1. We wanted to take advantage of the swimming pool that was in Junior 1. We wanted to take advantage of the auditorium that was in Junior 1 as community amenities. Those no longer exist and aren't options. So we are still in the process of redoing that planning process to understand what those amenities are going to be. Surrounding that, going up and down Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, the plan is for a combination of townhouse-style development and single-family homes as part of the build-out and the proposed land use. In between that, there are opportunities for commercial as well. One element of the northbound monument transformation plan that was identified was an idea that for community members in North Trenton, there was a desire to have Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard become a new main street for North Trenton. And in fact, to be a main street that would honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That was a stated goal in this. So we've honored that in trying to address more commercial investment along this strip and really be a walkable main street for the neighborhood. So that comes with a conceptual site plan, which is in the plan. This is conceptual, so we're not bound by this, but it gives us an idea of what this might look like as we move this forward. There's a circulation plan in here. And that circulation plan is very important because it shows what the new circulation is going to be. So one of the key issues that we have in this neighborhood is that the current Donnelly Homes is a super block. It is one large block on with a campus-style housing with no through streets. It is fenced off from the rest of the neighborhood, and it functionally segregates Donnelly Homes from the rest of the neighborhood. And this is not acceptable city planning anymore. We want to open up Donnelly Homes for what is now Donnelly Homes to new through streets, going up and down, left and right, make it part of an urban grid, and make it part of the same community that the rest of us belong to. So there's no longer any segregation between Donnelly Homes and the rest of the community. That will include that. So that's a significant transportation investment that we're making into the area with all the new streets. It's also a significant investment into what these properties are going to be, because now we're talking about frontages onto streets, we're talking about new landscaping, we're talking about new design all across. So, when we talk about a redevelopment area plan, we are also talking about the tools of a redevelopment area plan, and there are several of them. A redevelopment plan provides the opportunity to sell land as a part of a redevelopment agreement as opposed to an auction. It provides the opportunity for incentives for development, including pilots and other tax incentives for development and waiver of other taxes. It also includes eminent domain as a potential tool. And that is a tool that potentially could be used in this case. Now that's a significant item that we need to talk about, because that's not something simple. So, it's important as we do this to recognize the history of eminent domain in the city of Trenton and the consequences that it has had in some cases. One example of this that is most significant is in the Coldport neighborhood, which was at one point the highest concentration of black homeownership in the city of Trenton. It was taken through eminent domain for a first Route 1 throughway, and later on for industrial development that never came, and it decimated the city. So we need to recognize that history as part of our legacy for the city of Trenton as we consider eminent domain. At the same time, we want to recognize that eminent domain is a critical part of the housing plan in this in order to have the neighborhood transformation that we need to have. This board has already found that this neighborhood contains significant amounts of blighted properties that are falling down, properties where there are significant health impacts to the properties and they cannot stay up anymore. It also provides the opportunity for redevelopment into the type of neighborhood that community members have identified that they want to see, the type of townhouses that is the preferred housing type in this community. So it begs the question of, if you're talking about eminent domain, what are the protections are there for people in the community to make sure that they are made whole by this process, that we're not hurting people as part of this. So there was a major transformation in eminent domain in 2005. There was a Supreme Court decision, Kelo versus New Haven, expanded the use of eminent domain through the country that said that eminent domain could be used to take property away from individuals and give it to other private developers. In response to this, states all across the country put in place new protections to make sure that eminent domain, when it's used, was used fairly, was used humanely, and provided additional protections for people in their communities. And as I've gone through this process now, I went from being very, very hesitant to use this tool ever, and very comfortable with it, to being more confident about the ability to effectively provide people with the tools that they need to be made whole. So, as part of this process, we are required to do a workable relocation assistance plan. And I have a copy of this plan that you can see. This is a draft plan. So this is a requirement, a first requirement before any displacement can happen. This plan is an application to the Department of Community Affairs where we have to show exactly who could potentially be displaced. We have to show what housing is available to everybody in order to make sure that there's equivalent housing available. We have to show that we have the tools to provide you with financing to make that transition happen, and with sufficient money to make sure that you can move into that new housing. That transition has to be identified and how that transition is going to happen. There are funds allocated for moving expenses in this workable allocation assistance plan. And all of this has to be approved by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs as part of this process. So that's one level of protection. Additionally, our program is part of the Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant, which means that we are administered by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which means that for transition that is happening within Donnelly homes, we are required by law to have case managers as part of that process. We're required to have development. We're required to provide reform replacement of housing for all people in the Donnelly homes. We're required to have that housing developed and identified and with workable vouchers for everybody. In addition to that, our own transformation plan has been developed to make sure that we are not doing temporary displacements. So our planning process includes a staged redevelopment, focusing on doing first Junior 1 and a different property, the Canal Dumpster development area that we'll talk about later, as a first stage development, along with the first stage of townhouse development in the area. That off-site development permits us to move people out of Donnelly homes into new housing before doing any demolition onto Donnelly homes, so that we can have a staged process of the demolition of Donnelly homes, and make sure that we don't have a problem of temporary displacement of people. People have places to move into. So we were doing our absolute best to make sure everybody has a roof over their heads, everybody is made whole as part of this process. In addition, we have identified as one of our 5, as I mentioned before, one of our 5 critical community investments, a homeownership program. And that homeownership program is going to be used for new homeownership program, but it is also intended to make sure that current homeowners are made whole as part of this plan. That there's new homeownership opportunities, that people who are homeowners have the opportunity to move into an equivalent home in the neighborhood, that home is developed right and safe and affordable, and affordable in terms of their current situation, so that if you currently are not have your mortgage paid off, that should be the case when you move into the new home. And that's part of our plan as well for this. So we're really going out of our way to make sure that this program makes everybody whole at the end. I think that's it. I think that's the centerpiece of our presentation. So what we're asking today is for a review of this Donnelly Homes Redevelopment Area Plan. The finding that you would have today would be that plan is in accordance with the Trenton 250 Master Plan. It should be because it is based on Donnelly Homes, the North Trenton Donnelly Monument Redevelopment, North Trenton Donnelly Monument Choice Neighborhood Plan, which was already adopted as an element of the Trenton 250 Master Plan. And that will be referred to City Council for adoption of this. I'd be happy to take whatever questions that people have about this. And there are people in the audience, I know there are people in the audience who have questions about this, and we should address them. And also, Jelani and Christy may have answers that I don't have to some of the questions also, so they're available as well.
Thank you. So we wouldn't necessarily be approving the relocation assistance plan of details, right?
No. So that what you have there is just a draft to see what kinds of things that DCA requests as part of our application. It's to see the level of detail that's required as part of this plan, the level of approval that's required. Oh, one other question that I should address is, you know, if the eminent domain tool is used, and that's a big if, what the negotiation process is. So as part of that process, the Department of Community Affairs actually appoints for each individual case 3 commissioners, and those commissioners wind up forming a panel to do what I would describe as an arbitration case to set the value of a home as part of that process. Now that's in the case of if we are going forward with eminent domain. The hope of the city is that we can, in many of these cases, that we can avoid this, that we can work with individual homeowners, individual renters, individual community members, before ever using the eminent domain tool to find a workable solution for everybody so that we don't have to go to court, so that we can work with people on addressing their needs and do so in a manner that makes everybody whole and serves everybody's needs.
Thank you. Do any board members have comments or questions?
As far as any HUD contributions, are there any limitations or stipulations in order for us to get any HUD contributions toward the various grants?
Yes. So this process is happening in the context of us trying to put together an application for that HUD grant. That grant is not a done deal. I'm going to stress this very much, which is that if we do not get this grant, nothing that is in this redevelopment plan happens. We will seek other means for the redevelopment of Donnelly homes, and there are, we try and find alternatives, but there's no $50 million investment without that application being passed. In addition to that grant requires, as I mentioned before, $250 million in leveraged investments. Some of that comes from the city, some of that comes from the state, some of that comes from the Trenton Housing Authority. The Trenton Housing Authority has entered into an MOU with their housing partner, which is PRC, as the housing developer. So that's going to be functioning as a redeveloper for this community. I've had the opportunity to visit PRC sites in New York and Westchester, including the Housing Authority site in New Rochelle. It was beautiful construction. I was really glad I had the opportunity to take that tour. And they've been already on board as a very solid partner in this application. So we're moving forward with that application, but none of this happens without that grant.
Any other board member comment, questions? If the plan is adopted, what would the expected timeline be?
So our application to HUD for this implementation grant is due February the 13th. So we are, that's it. The deadline has shifted. We had initially been December. They moved it back 2 months. We do not yet have a confirmation about when we will be awarded the grant. We are estimating sometime around August of 24, we would hear back about whether we receive the grant, and then we move forward very quickly. The Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant is for an 8-year period, so that's how long we would anticipate all this happening. We would be moving very quickly on all phases of the implementation because it all has to be executed, including all 650 plus housing units within that 8-year period.
And you mentioned the planning process for Junior 1. Would that be taking place as part of this or as its own thing?
So that planning process is ongoing, and that's a very important point because it is ongoing, and it is ongoing with community engagement. So this Wednesday night, we have a meeting at Donnelly Homes targeted for residents, although it's open to the community, where we're going to be reviewing people plan, neighborhood plan, housing plan, breaking down all these elements and setting new priorities for the community for the application. So we're going to have boards where it's going to be interactive. So probably this is going to be like a half-an-hour presentation, and then we have boards set up where community members can interact with different stations. And that's going to be part of that process of rescoping what's going to be at Junior 1, as well as other key sites in the neighborhood. That's going to be followed with an additional neighborhood meeting, we're calling it, which will be a virtual meeting too. So for people who are part of the wider Choice neighborhood community and really part of the rest of Trenton also can participate in that meeting to also provide feedback to this plan. The date for that one is not set yet, it's done.
Would the housing authority be managing these, I mean, years away, but would they be managing all or part of the development?
Yes. So this will happen as the housing development component to this will happen as a partnership between the Housing Authority and PRC. The Trenton Housing Authority is maintaining site control over all of the housing area. So this is not being given over to a private developer. It's going to be done as a partnership between the two. PRC will be the construction entity who will be doing the physical development of the site. They will have subs on it to do some of the construction. There will be subs on we anticipate to do some of the single-family housing component of this. But it's all the housing component is led and managed by the Trenton Housing Authority.
It'd be a mixed rate development. Does the housing authority manage other mix of, affordable market rate? Do they manage other?
All of that. Do you want to keep us on?
Good evening. Yes, the properties will be managed.
I'm sorry, could you just state your name, please, for the record?
My name is Jelani Garrett. I'm the executive director of the Trenton Housing Authority. And
Thank you.
the properties will be managed under a public-private partnership, essentially. We have a similar model at Turner Point, where we are in partnership with the private developer who handles the tax credit compliance, the business compliance, federal government taxes. We handle the day-to-day operations, the on-site property management. So it's a partnership, and this deal is contemplated to be set up the same way.
Okay, thank you.
Jelani. Garrett, Garrett.
Thank you. Any board members, comments, questions? George, any comments, questions?
Yeah, just to review what we're here to do. We have, last meeting we recommended that.
2 meetings ago. 2 meetings ago.
Thank you, Michael. 2 meetings ago, I meant to say. We actually referred this area to the governing body with the recommendation that they find it to be an area in need of redevelopment, which the governing body did. They sent back, they adopted a resolution, and they received the report from the planners, WRT, Wallace Roberts and Todd LLC, and then they sent that to us to review, and our charge is to review that plan to make sure that there aren't any inconsistencies with the master plan. And Michael has said that the plan is based upon the Choice Neighborhood Plan, which is part of the master plan. So Michael, it would be your opinion that there are no inconsistencies with the plan, the plan as opposed or when reviewed against the master plan, right?
That's correct. This is a direct implementation of the adopted element of the Trenton master plan.
Okay, so that's one finding that we will need to make. And then the next thing that we can do under the statute is provide recommendations. And we can make those recommendations as part of our report. They don't have to be adopted, but we can do that. So that's something that we can do, but do not have to do. The first thing that we have to do, we must do, because that's our obligation. But we may or may not have recommendations. So just keep that in mind as we listen to the public and take Michael's advice as to what may need to be changed, if anything. Take Michael's advice into consideration in any event. So that's all I wanted to say, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Would any members of the public like to speak?
So if we could just state our names one, no, come on up, I'm sorry. If we just state, everybody that comes up, just state your name and then spell it so that Sherry can record it.
Hello, my name is Brittany Palmer, Brittini, last name Palmer, Palmer.
Thank you.
Yes. And I live actually right across the street from Donnelly Homes. I was able to attend the meeting that they held. Very communicative. Christy Huff called me, had a great conversation to learn more about the project. A lot of us weren't really aware of all the details. And thank you so much for addressing eminent domain, and which was a concern for a lot of people in the neighborhood who received a letter mentioning eminent domain. So thank you for that. My comment, I guess it's not necessarily a question, is when we talk about working with people who own properties in the area, who from the outside it may look terrible. Let's get rid of this property, thinking about people who may not fit under certain categories. As we know, a lot of people may deal with poverty. We have to talk about how race plays an issue in what we're seeing around Trenton, especially when it comes to housing. But a lot of people may have not had the resources to keep up with the properties, right? It may be the only property they may have in their family. So when we're talking about eminent domain, keeping that to the forefront, which you already stated, but also when we talk about working with certain people or certain families when it comes to their property, really thinking about and really saying what this means. If we're saying we're going to work with them, so what does that mean exactly? And could that actually be something in writing? This is what we'll do, this is what we'll provide, this is the financing, and this is how it will look. So I think this sounds great. This is way overdue. When you look at our city, people deserve so much better, so I'm glad that the work that they're doing. But I think it's important that we don't overlook things and make sure it's very clear, especially for people who own properties and haven't had the resources or finances to keep it up. So thank you.
Thank you. I know it wasn't a question, any response as to the individual aspect of, each process? Yeah.
So one of the critical elements in the redevelopment area plan, and this is required by law, is the relocation process, which is put in here on page 44 of the redevelopment area plan. So this talks about how that redevelopment process happens and what the requirements are. So this provides for, I want to make sure I have this right, that I'm reading this right. This does require for coordination with other public agencies. This requires good faith negotiations with owners of properties, conveyation of what else? Requirement for fair market value to be provided, full-time permanent occupants would be proposed, and the workable reallocation. So really, all of the requirements for how to work with those property owners goes into the workable reallocation assistance plan. So if you see in that plan, there are requirements for the entire process for case management, for working with people directly, and there's actually a narrative, that section that's required as part of that process in the RAP in order to move forward with the process. So DCA supervises that process, including the negotiation and including the whatever case management is necessary. So if you look in there, you can see every step of this mapped out as a part of the RAP in order to work with people through this whole process. In terms of negotiations and how many negotiations that would happen without eminent domain, it's hard for us to commit to anything specific about that because it's so dependent on the particular property owner. All I can say is that court's really expensive, so, and the eminent domain process is really expensive. So our preference is always going to be work with people on making those things, on making those compromises and doing deals on these properties, so that we don't have, because that we can avoid that process. It's better for us and it's better for the community members, we feel. We have an incentive to work with people as part of that process.
Do you know approximately how many residential properties, privately owned properties are in the area?
I think it's about 22 properties, 4 of them are commercial and the rest are residential.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who would like to speak or ask a question?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add to what Michael was saying, because what I think I heard Ms. Palmer saying was that the communication to the people was important. It's good that we have the process and the procedures and the safeguards, but we should make sure that the people who are affected know that these things are in place. So that's the other part of what I think I heard her say.
Would anyone like to come up and speak?
Hi, good evening. My name is Miriam Lopez, M-I-R-I-A-N. Lopez, L-O-P-E-Z. I buy my first house in 705 Martin Luther King. Is around next to the housing, and I don't know, but this is my first house and I buy it with a lot of love, and I don't like to, if it's a case that I can sell my home, I wouldn't like to sell my house, because I buy that house to raise my kids. So I moved there 3 years ago, and now when I received the letter that they're doing the plan, I was so happy for the area, for the other neighbors. But if it is in consideration to if the homeowner, they don't want to sell it or they want to stay in the home, that it can be reconsidered, to think about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm looking at the map, and it looks like 705 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard was actually excluded from the area needed for development. So that property is not as part of this redevelopment area plan at all.
Was it included in an earlier phase, or is it just...
Yes.
Okay.
So, as part of this process, notice was sent to everybody who was in a larger investigation area for area needed for redevelopment. We received communications from several people about what the status of their property was. There were updates to the area needed redevelopment list, and as you can see on page 22 of the redevelopment area plan, there were significant numbers of properties that were pulled out of the area needed redevelopment designation. So 705 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard is not in the area needed redevelopment anymore. If you look at page 22, you can see that.
Do you understand that, Ms. Lopez?
Anyone else like to speak?
Yeah. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Prince Muhammad. I reside at 409 Sandy Drive, in Trenton. I have a few questions and then a few suggestions. Listening to the representative here, he says that right now, nothing is really in a straitjacket. It's like a projection, and it's not in stone. All right. I'm concerned, the master plan and in the interim, what is the time frame for the completion okay, of this very good and ambitious, okay, program. Along with that, who is controlling or has the last say-so in the monies that is being, if it be being granted? Because I hear the municipality and private investors. All right. That's a question I'd like to have answered. All right. And also, my comment is, with this ambitious program, the underserved people or the poverty-stricken people, my concern is, where are they at in the plan on the ground floor level, okay, with this ambitious plan, okay, where they could be redeveloped, okay, and grow and be connected to the redevelopment, okay, because to me, one of the major objectives is to have a win-win situation for the investors, a win-win situation for the residents, and new investors, okay, for commercial use. We wouldn't want to have people come in, all right, and in 5 years, because the area that has been overlooked, a major resource, is the people, okay, that are below poverty level or the have-nots. So where are they going to fit in? Okay, to me, I'm recommending that they should be on the ground floor level with a projection to prepare them, those that connect with this ambitious program, all right, to work and be a partner as well. All right, and I say all of that because in the high technology era that we're in, okay, a lot of common work is not going to be available for people. They need the technical knowledge, okay, as well as the mental mindset, okay, that they are going to be responsible partners working to help Trenton thrive. So, I believe that is about all, but I'm putting a lot of emphasis that the plan has taken somebody, okay, to organize and outline a plan of action. Why can't it be that the disadvantaged people are brought up to speed in their mindset to help this project be successful for the ongoing future? Because you put the buildings there and the commerce there, okay, but the people that are there are relocated, haven't connected with basic responsibilities because of maybe a lot of hopelessness. I want to thank you very much for allowing me to ask my questions and give my suggestion for this ambitious plan, okay, because it's not peanuts that's being thrown down. I'm also concerned about the contractors. It's a massive project, okay? Are the Trentonian residents going to have an opportunity, okay, to connect as a contractor in some kind of way, okay, to get a piece of this money? Thank you once again. May everyone have a good evening.
Thank you. Michael, you want to respond to those? And I wrote them down if you don't have them.
That's very appreciated. So you want to start one at a time?
Yeah, first thing was time frame of completion of the program.
So yeah, so we would be anticipating, if we awarded the grant, we would be awarded the grant in August of 2024. We would then have approximately 8 years to complete it, so that would put a completion date in 2032.
Okay. The next one is
2032 would be the completion of the overall project. Now, there will be lots of steps that would be completed in the interim, but the final last element of the plan would be completed, has to be completed by 2032. It all has to be executed by then.
I think the next one was about who has the last say-so in how the money is spent.
At the end of the day, that's HUD, really. So this is an application between the city, the partnership between the city and the Trenton Housing Authority. We're putting the plan, we're putting the application to HUD. We're seeking HUD's approval for this. At the end of the day, the Department of Housing and Urban Development has final say in how their home and how their funding is used. So as part of this process, what we understand as part of this process is that as we develop these plans and the implementation, HUD wants to be an active partner in this. So they want to have final say over housing development. They want to have final say over our plan. Now that's not saying that they're overruling us necessarily on any of these things, that they're dominating this process, but they have the final say on how their funds are utilized. In terms of, from a local perspective, how this happens, this is very much a partnership between the city and the Trenton Housing Authority. Site control is maintained by the Trenton Housing Authority for all of the housing. So this is not a situation where the developers are coming in and running the show. Developers here are as a partner. They are certainly are going to be our private developers looking to make a buck. But they are there as a partner with the Trenton Housing Authority through the whole process, and with the Trenton Housing Authority and the city working together, making the final decisions.
I think the next concern was about the longer-term impact on disadvantaged communities and their involvement. I think also, their involvement in helping make decisions and steer the project.
Absolutely. So community engagement through the entire process is a required element of the Choice Neighborhood Plan. And HUD has requirements for a certain number of community meetings to happen before the plan happens. We have a certain requirement for a certain number of community meetings that happen during our application window period. We have requirements for community meetings that take place all throughout the planning process. It's all required by HUD. This is not dissimilar from what we do in the city. The city has won numerous awards for community engagement. We won another one on Wednesday for our bicycle open houses. This is our part of recommendation for the city to do effective public engagement, especially when it so closely affects the lives of our community members. As part of this Choice Neighborhoods planning process, we have had a very, very close relationship with the residents of the Donnelly Homes community. So as part of this process, Donnelly Homes community members completed over 200 families completed surveys about their preferences for the redevelopment of this neighborhood. And when I say survey, I'm not talking about 2 or 3 pages. I'm talking about massive 40-page surveys, taking an hour or two for each person to complete. And that was a required part of this process. We had to collect a minimum of 200 of those as part of our process. We've had community meeting after community meeting after community meeting. And then part of the reason for this is that this leads us to not just our housing plan, but also our people plan and our neighborhood plan. I remember, so the gentleman asked about economic development opportunities as part of this, and that is a critical component of this. We cannot redevelop the housing in this neighborhood and not provide opportunities for the people in this neighborhood to have economic development, community development, economic opportunities, training. So that one of our key investments, our key capital investments in this area is into a business improvement program. We are exploring opportunities for business incubator. Unfortunately, that's gotten more challenging over time, but we remain committed to the idea of a business incubator in the neighborhood. We have to find a vendor now. The vendor that we would have used a couple of years ago no longer does this. So we're trying to find those opportunities for a business incubator that would include things like maker space, business training, small, worker space for small businesses to start developing. But this is a key element in this program. We want to make sure that there are new economic development opportunities in this neighborhood for people.
Thank you. Those are all the notes I've written down. Yeah. Any other members of the public who would like to speak? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Aaron Ford, Aaron Ford. I just wanted to kind of get a clearer answer for a question that the the gentleman before me asked. What's the name of that? RDC is the development company? PRC, sorry, I got that acronym wrong. PRC, and I'm thinking about what it means to be, to engage in an equitable process. As I look at PRC's governing board and who's actually on their management team, all of those individuals are I would assume are perceived to be Caucasian, right? So this is an area that is primarily black and brown people. And so his question was not just about the business development. These are all things that will come on the back end, but the initial investment would actually be for those people to get involved in the actual redevelopment of that community. So when I think about contractors, I would want to know, how are we also going to engage contractors who are members of the community to also be engaged in that process and to receive, portions of the funding? It sounds like there are multiple portions of this, redevelopment effort that, go beyond just whether it be, you talk about mixed use, so you have townhomes, you have single family homes, and you also have apartment style homes as well. So I could imagine that there would be a more equitable, or there could potentially be an equitable means of actually parceling that out to ensure that members of the community who have been doing development in this community for years now could actually participate in that process. Because the incubator is great, but that's may happen. But once this funding does come out, the will happen is the redevelopment of that community. So I would want to know, how do we ensure that that process is in fact equitable? Because a public-private partnership still does not mean that's essentially trickle-down economics, and we understand that does not work. So how do we ensure that investment into people's businesses is actually comes to fruition on the front end and not on the back end? So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again, Jelani Garrett. First of all, I'd like to say, just to go back and say that when we embarked on this Choice Neighborhoods Planning Initiative, the impetus for it wasn't in fact sticks and bricks, but it was actually in fact to bring services to our families. And our goal in the process was really to collaborate with local organizations to bring services to bear to the families that we serve. And we were successful in getting that planning grant based on that particular way of going about doing it. And we brought together, I think, over 30, how many partners do we have? Like 45 partners, including a number of organizations that are already working in Trenton. So I just wanted to frame that, because that was actually the impetus of even moving forward. And this thing has ballooned, and the partners have come together, and we have taken it now to the top, to the point that we're standing here before you today. So that is intertwined in all of our processes. And under this Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant, there will be approximately $7.5 million that will be designed to uplift the families at Donnelly Homes, and not just theoretically or generally. I'm talking about going in and dealing with each and every family, each and every household, looking at their children's educational outcomes, looking at their health outcomes, looking at their employment outcomes, and seeing how we can help those families better their situation. So this is very much focused on the families at Donnelly Homes and improving their life outcomes. I will say on the other note that we have actually, the Trenton Housing Authority will be driving when it comes to contractors and construction and that around housing development. We will be driving that, and we actually will be passing a community empowerment and Section 3 plan shortly. But I would like to go back to our history. Turner Point, we exceeded all of our goals, and right now in our operations, we contract with local minority contractors. And again, I'm not just saying generally I can name them. I can name the contractors that we deal with, not only in our development projects, but also in our daily operations. So we're committed, our team is committed from the top level to make sure that there's parity and make sure that there's participation. And ultimately, we have the power to pen. Before we sign any contracts, and it's the way we did it with Turner Point, we made sure that the participation was there before we signed the final contracts, and we intend to do the same thing here. So we're with you 100%. The Trenton Housing Authority team is with you 100%, and that's how we intend to move, so.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the public? Any other comments, questions from the board?
I think I just, for my own personal clarification, so if someone is relocated and they prefer wherever they end up, there's no, like, nothing says they have to return to the Donnelly project or into the general vicinity?
No, if you actually go into the RAP document, it talks about that it's specifically that there's no requirement to return. It's an option to return. In our case, we hope our community members will return. We think that we're a stronger community when community members return. And in fact, this is something that's very interesting, which is that very commonly in public housing authorities, when you do community surveys, you'll see a very high percentage of community members who want, their goal is to get out. That was not the case here. We did the families community surveys for Donnelly homes. An overwhelming majority expressed a desire to return to the community and to stay in the community. So we're anticipating, but it's not an obligation.
Any other comments, questions from board members?
I have one question. I just wanted clarification. You said that the plan will take 8 years to implement. Does that mean that the families who are being, what's the word I'm looking for? Relocated, yes, will be protected for all the majority of the 8 years or entire 8 years?
So the way our plan works is that because of the stage development, there should not be any temporary relocation. So what's going to happen is we build, and then a family is moved from what exists into the new construction. So there's no process for people to be, temporarily out of housing. You're always going to have a roof over your head. In terms of what the housing guarantee for public housing is a guarantee for life. So unless you do something to violate the public housing rules, that voucher, you functionally have a voucher, and that voucher exists for the rest of your life. So that's guaranteed. We're not talking about an 8-year guarantee. We're talking about a guarantee for the rest of your life. That's built into part of this program. For the affordable housing component of it, and the market rate housing component, that part of it works just like any other housing that you have in the city of Trenton. That's people paying rent and moving about their daily business. And so, if you have a market rate unit, I have a market rate unit. I'm an apartment building also. That's nothing different.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, board members, members of the public? Michael, any, before we, consider making a motion, any closing thoughts?
I will just say that to address George's directive, we don't have any recommendations for changes to the plan. The plan exists as is. If the planning board has recommendations, we're happy to hear them and to discuss them. But from the city's perspective, we don't have any improvements in the plan to recommend.
Do any members of the board want to make a motion resolving to submit a report to the City of Trenton governing body saying that it is in conformity with the Trenton master plan, or any amendment to that phrasing?
And Mr. Chairman, that would be that we find no inconsistencies and we have no recommendations, of course, unless we do. And so that's something for the board to consider.
Thank you, George.
So we probably should just have the motion then to find that the plan is fully consistent with the city's Trenton 250 master plan.
So moved.
Thank you, Pat and Mike. Cherry, could we have a vote on that roll call?
Charles Romano?
Yes.
Randy Baum?
Yes.
Anthony Santora?
Yes.
Jonathan Connor?
Yes.
Kathy Dominguez?
Yes.
Patricia Nima Mohammed?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a resolution that I could read into the record, and we could memorialize our decision tonight rather than waiting to the next meeting so that the process can continue as quickly as possible.
Sure, let's do that.
Yeah, so our choices are either to memorialize the resolution today or everybody's going to come back on November 20th. So, because we need to get it done before the end, we need to get the redevelopment plan done by the end of the year. So,
Yeah, since it sounds like there's a consensus, not that, I'm fine coming back if we need to, but because there's a consensus, I think it's okay to do it tonight.
Okay, then should I read the resolution, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, thank you.
Resolution number 2023-15, resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Trenton, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey regarding the review of the Donnelly Homes redevelopment plan pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-7E. Whereas the governing body of the City of Trenton did by resolution number 23-131 dated March 23, 2023, authorize the Planning Board of the City of Trenton to undertake a preliminary investigation to determine whether the area known as the Donnelly Home Study Area is an area in need of redevelopment according to criteria set forth in NJSA 40A:12A-5. And whereas the above referenced resolution of the governing body stated that the redevelopment area determination shall authorize the City of Trenton to use all those powers provided by the legislature for use in a redevelopment area, including the use of eminent domain. And whereas the firm of Wallace, Roberts, and Todd LLC, known as WRT, is an interdisciplinary planning and urban design firm retained to assist the planning board in its efforts. And whereas the board did receive and review the report prepared by WRT and did receive the presentation prepared by Woo Kim, professional planner, a licensed planner of the state of New Jersey, and a principal at WRT regarding the study. And whereas the Planning Board of the City of Trenton by resolution number 2023-13 did recommend to the governing body of the City of Trenton that the Donnelly Home Study Area be determined by the governing body to be an area in need of redevelopment in accordance with the report and presentation prepared by WRT. And whereas the governing body of the City of Trenton did designate the Donnelly Home Study Area as an area in need of redevelopment by resolution 23-499, and whereas the governing body did receive the Donnelly Homes redevelopment plan prepared by WRT dated October 19, 2023, and whereas the governing body of the City of Trenton did by resolution number 23-500 did refer the plan to the planning board pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-7E for the purposes of conducting a consistency review of the plan with the City of Trenton 250 master plan. And whereas the planning board did conduct such a review to determine if any part of the Donnelly Homes redevelopment plan was inconsistent with the Trenton 250 master plan at its special meeting of November 6, 2023. And whereas the matter was open to the public for comment, and whereas the planning board, upon its review and upon receiving the assistance and comments of the city's senior planner, Michael Colbert, PP, and upon considering the comments of the public, finds that the Donnelly Homes redevelopment plan is consistent with the Trenton 250 master plan in all respects. And whereas NJSA 40A:12A-7E provides that the planning board may make such other comments on such issues as it deems appropriate, and whereas the planning board of the city of Trenton did not have additional comments or recommendations, now therefore be it resolved by the planning board of the city of Trenton that the Donnelly Homes redevelopment plan referenced herein is entirely consistent with the city of Trenton's master plan. Mr. Chairman, that's the only finding we have to make, and that's a complete reading of the resolution that I prepared.
Thank you. Do we need to vote on that, or we?
Yes.
Okay. Charity, can we roll call on the voting of the resolution?
Is there a motion and second from someone?
Is there a motion?
Moved.
A second. Thank you, Lincoln. Yep, Cherry?
Sure. Charles Romanow,
Yes.
Randy Baum,
Yes.
Anthony Santora,
Yes.
Jonathan Connor,
Yes.
Conti Dominguez. Yes. Patricia Mima Mohammed.
Yes.
That's 6, Cherry, right? 6? None opposed? Okay, so the original motion carries and the resolution is memorialized.
Thank you. Yep, item number 2. Cherry, would you mind reading this one?
Item number 2, public hearing, Canal Banks redevelopment area plan. The planning board shall consider whether to recommend an amendment to the Canal Banks redevelopment area plan pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 40A:12A-1. Exsec. The amendment proposes a change in zoning for Block 3902, Lot 1, from public facility to business A. The previous zoning was written to enable a project which is no longer viable. The new zoning will allow for the appropriate redevelopment of the property on this evening of Monday, November 6, 2023, at 8:25 p.m.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think we didn't really announce that the Donnelly Homes matter is now concluded, and we're on to the second matter, which is the Canal Banks matter. So if anybody's in the audience, you're certainly welcome to stay for our discussion of the Canal Banks, but if you're here for Donnelly Homes, that discussion's concluded.
So I would say to that, sort of, because this matter is tied to the choice neighborhood plan. So what we have here is for the Canal Banks area plan. This is an existing plan for the city of Trenton adopted in March of 1994. This will be the 6th time that this board has amended this plan. And really this is to change the zoning on one parcel in this redevelopment area plan. So this is for Block 3902, Lot 1, which is a parcel that is right next to the Battle Monument, at the corner next to Henry Austin. And this is a change in that parcel from public facility to business A zoning. So there's a few parts to this. First of all, this parcel was originally intended for, this zoning that we had was originally intended to convert this parcel into a Head Start facility. This happened, it was years ago. That project was never completed. It was abandoned by the Board of Education, it was abandoned by the state, and the parcel has been vacant ever since then. So, as part of the execution of the Choice Neighborhood Redevelopment Plan, the idea is to use this parcel as another site for housing development. As again, this would be part of our phase 1 in Choice Neighborhoods to move people from the Donnelly Homes into this redevelopment site, and so that the process could move forward. So, for this site, we're proposing, again, a 5-story, multifamily house. The first story on the bottom floor would be a combination of parking and daycare. That's the anticipated build-out. And then 4 stories of residential above that. That's what we're going to be applying for as part of our choice neighborhoods plan. To address open space needs, there will be a 20-foot setback from North Warren Street to allow for beautification of the park. 12-foot setback on Pennington. None of that is addressed in the redevelopment area plan. That is our proposed build-out for this as part of the choice neighborhood application. For this plan, all we're doing is amending that public facility zoning to what in our current ordinance is business A. So we are looking for a business A zoning. This allows for large-scale multifamily development, which is what we anticipated. It allows for mixed-use development, which is what we're anticipating. It allows for the parking that we need. One key component to this is that if you look at our current zoning ordinance for business A, it specifically refers to the Capital City Redevelopment Plan for design standards. Now, this is going to be the only parcel in our current land development ordinance that is not part of the CCRC area, the Capital City Redevelopment Corporation area, that is going to have a business A zoning. So what we have done is that we have defined in the redevelopment area plan that this will refer to the CMZ components of the urban code within the CCRC area for design standards. So that makes up that gap in terms of comparing it to every other property that's business A. So this assigns that value to that missing value that we need in order to define the use, which is identified in the land development ordinance, and then the design standards, which are in the CCRC code.
Michael, can I just stop you there?
Yes.
Because you lost me. So we're moving away from the Head Start designation.
Correct.
That property could only be a Head Start under the plan, and
Yes.
nobody wants to do that, and the Board of Ed doesn't want to do it, and so it's not going to get done, so we have to redesignate it, right?
Correct.
So we're changing it to the Business A zone.
Yes.
Okay, and then you mentioned design standards.
Yes.
What are those design standards?
So, for everything else in the LDO, in our land development ordinance, the design standards are specified in the land development ordinance. For business A, the land development ordinance says that the design standards are defined in the Capital City Renaissance Plan.
Okay.
So, because the design standards here are not specified because this particular property is not in the Capital City Renaissance Planning area, we are assigning it to a zoning, to a design, to what is called CMZ within the urban code of the Capital City Renaissance Plan.
So we're still using the Capital City Renaissance Plan,
We're using the design standards from the Capital City Renaissance Plan,
and they're known as CMZ?
and this is known as CMZ. CM, do I have that right? CMX, so I'm sorry, I apologize, CMX.
CMX design standards
Yes,
located in the
urban code
urban code
of the Capital City Renaissance Plan.
for the Capital City Renaissance Plan.
Yep.
Okay.
So, for those of you who are still playing with us, this CMX urban code within the CCRC plan is identical to the CMX code of what will be the new land development ordinance for the city of Trenton. They are one and the same. So there shall be no difference between this and what's going to be adopted with the land development ordinance, but we have a sequencing issue, so we pulled it from the urban code in the CCRC plan.
And the only thing we're considering in the updated Canal Bank Street Development Area Plan is the text in red, correct?
It is the text in red. I will say that there is 2 texts that are in red. There is also an arrow that is in red in the redevelopment area plan. That is an arrow that was pre-existing in red that I could not figure out how to remove. So that is a legacy of a previous amendment.
That was one of my questions.
Absolutely. The other thing that has changed is the map. So on the map, immediately after page 14, you will see it is this parcel on the map, which used to be blue and is now red.
And that's the area plan map?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen those. Yep, thank you.
And that's all we're doing.
Can we make very minor additional changes, or would that be too big? It would change the whole thing.
The board can make additional changes or recommendations if it so chooses. We were not anticipating any other changes to the redevelopment area plan. I should say, as part of this, this is very much an interim step for this redevelopment area plan. So, we are in the process of working with New Jersey Department of Community Affairs on the update to all of our downtown redevelopment area plans. The Kavanaugh Bank's redevelopment area plan will be the first redevelopment area plan that they're addressing. So I am hoping to have a completely new redevelopment area plan in the next year that will replace this entirely. So this step that we're taking today is just to facilitate the choice neighborhood plan and what we need to do for there. It does not replace the need for a complete review and replacement of this economics redevelopment area plan in order to conform to the Trenton 250 master plan, in order to conform to the new development ordinance, and conform to all the things that we've been doing.
Yeah, my suggestion of edits was just to get the names of the streets correct. In the first sentence, that's North Calhoun Street. Is there a North Calhoun, or is it just Calhoun? I didn't think there was a North Calhoun.
I'm looking at our streets guy.
I was looking that up. I think Capitol Street, I think it's with an O, Capitol, instead of an A, unless it's changed since this was written. On Google Maps, it's an O. We have it as an A in the document.
That's actually A, according to the engineer's office.
Okay. And then for North Calhoun, Anthony, do you,
Drawing a blank.
My recommendation is that if we don't know for sure, let's just leave it be.
okay, that's fine. Okay, any board members have comments or questions on this matter?
Just one quick one. I'm curious, as we're looking at these maps, who is going to be reviewing the site plans as these are put forth? This particular lot is Board of Ed lot, not the Trenton House Authority lot, so.
So this will be a new development. This new development will require a site plan. It is not different from any other development that happens in the city of Trenton. So that new development will happen, that new site plan will be reviewed either by this board or the zoning board. It is very, very, very likely that it will be reviewed by this board because as part of the choice neighborhood application, we have to certify that all of the development that we are doing is permitted by existing zoning, which would imply that there's no deed variance required.
So that holds true for all the housing development property as well?
That holds true for everything in the choice neighborhood plan that's part of this plan. We have to, the zoning officers actually have to certify that as part of our application. It doesn't mean that a mistake won't be made or, you know, a D4 variance will be needed somewhere along the line or something to that effect that we don't anticipate. But as part of our application, we have to certify that.
Thank you.
And you said there will be a more in-depth review of the canal redevelopment area in the future, and this is just...
So if you're asking me to publicly state that our current redevelopment plan is in desperate need of a redo, and if, you can ask, I will offer all kinds of other expletives for this redevelopment area plan in private.
Okay.
But yeah, this has to get redone.
We should just note for the record that there are no members of the public present.
We have been abandoned.
Yeah. I guess I'll just leave it open to the public anyway. Any members of the public like to speak on this matter?
Ray, we're lonely with this here.
And George, can you just remind us what the ask is from us on this?
Well, this is the same thing that we did the last time, and it's a consistency review with the master plan. And Michael, it's your opinion that these changes are consistent with the master plan, correct?
Correct.
All right, so it's the same thing. We have the obligation to make a call as to inconsistencies that we find, but we have an opportunity to make recommendations if we like.
With the, to enter the master plan.
I second it.
Thank you, Pat. Cherry, do you have a roll call?
George Romano,
Yes.
Randy Baum,
Yes.
Anthony Santora,
Yes.
Jonathan Connor, Kathy Dominguez,
Yes.
Patricia Imam Mohammed.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a resolution that I can read just like a moment ago, and then we could get this matter moved along if you so please.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution number 2023-16, resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Trenton, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey regarding the review of the amendment to the Canal Banks redevelopment plan pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-7E. Whereas the City of Trenton adopted the Canal Banks redevelopment plan in March of 1994, and whereas the City of Trenton subsequently amended the Canal Banks redevelopment plan in the years 1996, 1998, 2000, 2005, and 2018, and whereas the City of Trenton is actively engaged in the implementation of the Canal Banks redevelopment plan, and whereas the governing body desires to amend the Canal Banks redevelopment plan to change the designation of the parcel at Block 3902, Lot 1, to eliminate the single-use Head Start facility because it is no longer a viable project, and to implement business aid zoning and CMX design standards located in the urban code for the capital city plan and make amendments to the area map accordingly. And whereas the governing body of the City of Trenton by resolution number 23501 did refer the amendment of the Canal Banks redevelopment plan to the planning board pursuant to NJSA 48:12A-7E for the purposes of conducting a consistency review of the amendment with the master plan, with the City of Trenton 250 master plan, and whereas the planning board did conduct such a review to determine if the amendment to the Canal Banks redevelopment plan is inconsistent with the Trenton 250 master plan at its special meeting of November 6, 2023, and whereas the matter was open to the public for comment, and whereas the planning board, upon its review, upon receiving the assistance and comments of the city senior planner Michael Colber, PP, and upon considering the comments of the public, finds that the amendments to the Canal Banks redevelopment plan is consistent with the Trenton 250 master plan in all respects. And whereas NJSA 40A:12A-7E provides that the planning board may make such other comments on such issues as it deems appropriate, and whereas the planning board of the City of Trenton does not have further recommendations or comments at this time. Now therefore be it resolved by the planning board of the City of Trenton that the amendment to the Canal Banks redevelopment plan referenced herein is entirely consistent with the City of Trenton's master plan. Mr. Chairman, that's the only finding that we have to make. That's what we made. That's a complete reading. We need a motion and a second and a roll call.
I think Michael has a comment.
Yeah, for capital city plan, if you could just specify it as the capital city renaissance plan for by the urban code.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve that resolution as amended?
Resolution as read.
I second it.
Thank you, Cherry, can we have roll call?
Charles Romano?
Yes.
Randy Bell?
Yes.
Anthony Santoro?
Yes.
Jonathan Connor? Kati Dominguez?
Yes.
Patricia Imam Mohammed?
Thank you.
Did Pat vote?
Yeah, I think she didn't say the thing.
Oh,
but she
okay.
said it. Yeah, or it was on, yeah. All right, I think that's everything. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks, everyone.
So I think security wants us out relatively quickly. So the next time, I think I'm seeing you next time in December, not till December the 14th, I think.